We're talking sine ratio. Sine is the next phase up from what we talked about in the previous videos in the previous lesson on tangent. And so in our lessons now from page 563 onward for the while, we're talking about a different relationship between the sides of a right triangle. Specifically, a sine ratio is the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the hypotenuse. We're going to call that specifically sine, S-I-N-E, just like we say sign, like a road sign, different spelling though. So sine, the next phrase is cosecant, and then inverse sine. Those are the three vocabulary words surrounding our lesson and our content for this section of videos for lesson 3. We're going to use the sine ratio in a right triangle to solve for unknown side lengths. We're going to use the cosecant ratio in a right triangle to solve for unknown side lengths. We're going to relate the sine ratio to the cosecant ratio. And then we're going to use inverse sine in a right triangle to solve for unknown angle measures. This will have very similar feeling to what we did in lesson 2 with tangent. It just has a different name because sine is a different comparison of the side lengths of a triangle from tangent, but the same idea that tangent developed, sine does the same thing. Which side lengths we're talking about. We need to know our reference angle, and then we're going to need to figure out the ratio of tangent in that problem. Since it says h, that means that h is the reference angle, and then we highlight with our common scheme so far the hypotenuse, and then the opposite side, and then last of all, the adjacent side. Boom. The thing is, tangent is supposed to be opposite to adjacent, and there's no adjacent number here. So before we even launch into question 1, after we've done all of the setup and the highlighting of what's there, we have to figure out the length of the orange side. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. By the time that we are finished with module 3, topic 2, you should have a variety of math tools to use. But our math tool we're going to use now that you have access to and have access to since you were in middle school is the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And remember, in the Pythagorean theorem, c is the hypotenuse. A could be the opposite side or the adjacent. That's a lovely smudge on there. Then with that knowledge, we can solve for the missing side length. Since orange, b, the adjacent side, is our unknown, before I even put numbers into here, I'm going to pull an algebra technique and I'm going to continue solving for b. So I will subtract both sides by a squared, which means that b squared equals, right, these are going to cancel, they're reducing to 0. B squared equals c squared minus a squared. That's just another way to write the Pythagorean theorem. In this case, the Pythagorean theorem is going to let us find the side length and not the hypotenuse length. This finds the hypotenuse. Little leggy there, sorry for the leg. And this finds the adjacent or opposite side length. By square root and square root, we cancel squares. So b squared is going to be reduced, simplified to be b equals, and then it's all of this expression. Now in this expression, c is 17, and a is 8. So we're able to plug those numbers into the formula and bring out our calculator and do some calculation work. So we're going to have, I'll write it over here, b equals 17 squared minus 8 squared. That difference is square rooted. 17 squared is 289, 8 squared is 64. Hey Siri, what's 289 minus 64?
289 minus 64 is 225.
And it's still square rooted. So then, hey Siri, what's the square root of 225?
The square root of 225 is 15.
Okay, so that tells me then that the opposite side is 15, and I'm going to put all of that in. You know, I haven't even begun answering question 1 specifically. This is all set up that you have to know how to do and be expecting to do when you have two sides of a right triangle and you need to find the third. Now let's answer question 1. The tangent of h is the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. 8 over 15. To calculate the measure of angle H, if you don't know the angle measure, you use arctangent. So the measure of angle H is going to be arctangent of 8 over 15. We don't know that number exactly. It's not a number that is automatically in our understanding. So I'm going to use the calculator. I'm going to use the trig button, and I'm going to use tangent inverse. So mouse over, select it. Make sure you're in degree mode. Check with me or watch a video online on how to change the TI Inspire into degree mode. Or if you're not using the Inspire but a different calculator, like go search up a tutorial. They're all over the internet. Last of all, though, we want this fraction, 8 divided by 15, lock it in. Approximately 28.07 degrees. 28.07 degrees. I would round it if the 2 was not a 2, but was like 5 or higher. That would make the 7 round up to 8. Remember your rounding rules from like 4th grade. Okay, with that, 563 is concluded. We've been talking about some information about sine ratios. You have to remember that it's going to be the same thing as when we talked about tangent. So go back and review lesson 2 if you need to. Thanks for watching. Keep clicking forward. Let the next video of page 564 give you more information to follow, and I'll see you in the next episode. All right, have a good one. See you in a minute.